let's dive in. Walk us through the story behind Wipro and the journey to where we are today.
First of all, just to give you a little background, Wipro is a 75-year-old story, beginning very much from a manufacturing setup, which was interestingly manufacturing vegetable oils.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and to one which is right now global IT services organization, a $10 billion organization. It's exciting because the thing with Wipro is about experiencing Wipro. It's about enduring entrepreneurship, an organization which sort of prides itself in sort of living its values, truly living its values, a place where people can actually belong, and in the process, giving opportunities to people over the years, right? We are one of the largest organizations right now from IT services setup worldwide, and operating across multiple nationalities, almost about 70 odd countries, 230,000 people worldwide. One of the best things for us has been the fact that we are deep in terms of our work that we do on sustainability across, truly speaking, impacting the communities and the societies at large. Just for you to know, it's like 67% of our profit actually goes down to people in need, right? And we do extensive work, and that's sort of the purpose and the story which sort of lives by for people. Every other employee that we work with, people that we work with, our customers, and sort of our wider ecosystem sort of relate to that significantly. So that's really something which is the true story that is there, Chris. The other thing is, we recognize that the world is changing right now, and there's a lot more that we need to be doing ourselves. And as a conscious move, what we've done is that we've signed up for the Transform to Net Zero as one of the first founding leaders with a consortium of one of the best organizations worldwide. Whether it's Microsoft, or Mercedes, or Maersk, or Danone, or many of those likes. So that sort of kept us going. And today, as we speak, there's a future. There is a bold ambition that we are all looking for. Very excited about all of that. And so that's sort of in nutshell rough about the story of Wipro, right?
Yeah, done well to condense that many years. Do you want to add anything else to that?
I wouldn't mind adding something, Chris. In terms of pride for me, in terms of working at Wipro, not only for the career opportunities it's given me, but also, like Deepak said, around sustainability, particularly in the COVID times where we opened up hospitals within our offices to support those in need. More recently, Project Hero, which has contributed to the Ukraine war. And that gives me great sense of pride to say that I work for Wipro in terms of how they've contributed to the communities.
And that's something that's really come to the forefront over the last few years. Many people have had the opportunity to sit down and think,
yeah,
who do I really want to work for?
That's true.
Is this organization aligned with my why and my purpose?
Yeah.
For the longest time, people just had a job for the sake of job. But now, it's kind of table stakes.
Yeah.
Have an organization that's aligned with your purpose and your values. That kind of leads us on to the next question. What is your why? What is your purpose as an organization?
Well, I think it's an interesting question because from what you said about people considering who they work for and what they stand for, because I think now it's changed to, do I want you on my CV versus, it being the other way around of organizations saying, do we want you to work for us? I think, the ball's very much as well in the candidate's court as well. Our purpose is obviously not just about winning business. It's about building an inclusive and sustainable environment for all to thrive. And that's, I guess, our purpose and our destination and a sort of endpoint that's our North Star within the organization. It helps us sort of ground us in what we're trying to achieve, but also externally enables us to sort of really convey what we're doing as a firm that everybody has sort of mentioned just a moment ago. But underneath that pins the values and the behaviors, because you can have the North Star and the purpose, but it's the how you're going to get there that is really the sort of the piece that enables you to achieve your purpose or continue on that journey to achieve your purpose. So we have 5 habits that we sort of really live by at Wipro, and everybody instills in themselves. And that's the rule that we sort of follow, and that's the behavior set that we live by.
I'm going to have to ask you for those 5 now.
I know you were going to ask me that.
You said it and you was like, oh no.
I was like, oh no, have it in headlights. No, so being responsive, being respectful, demonstrating stewardship, and then the last one is around building trust.
Love it, you got that.
I did. And always connecting, communicating.
Always communicating. And all of this is absolutely, it's something that I mentioned the word live by, and really speaking, it's not just about calling out the values or the habits. I think day on day, how do people sort of live it in their experiences? Connecting with people and really imbibing it on a day-to-day working scenario. That's really absolutely, and I think the best part of our ecosystem is today the leadership team, and worldwide we see that how does the leadership team role model that, right? And sort of across the teams that we look at, in the big churn that we are having, more and more people are joining, and every day there are almost like loads of people that we are hiring across countries and nationalities. How does everybody sort of live by those values on a day-to-day basis? I mean, building trust, for example, is a very, very critical element as we are sort of working through in this entire change and business fluctuation that is happening. Is that how do we actually start looking at people and allow them to be their own self? Right? So that's so very critical, and I think I'm really proud, and I'm sure the team here is that every day in interactions with our customers, it's about living those values. And we do quite a bit of session. A chairman along with the leadership team sort of have been speaking across to multiple people across and sort of giving real life examples of how do people live those values.
That's a challenge you mentioned there, because now we're in this digital environment. How do we do that?
Absolutely.
How do we communicate that? Because before you could walk through the hallway and bump into someone, spark a conversation, connect. But now most of our employees are working all over the world and disconnected. That's a whole other challenge I'm seeing leaders that are facing, is how do we do that? Whether that's being having a buddy system when someone joins the organization to do that. How are you overcoming that challenge?
So, one of the things, of course, Chris, is that, all of this, irrespective of whether it is in person or in virtual, even in the virtual state, it's pretty much possible to be able to, enshrine some of those behaviors, because when people see leaders and managers emulating those behaviors and sort of demonstrating that, they know that there is something for each of them to sort of pick up, right? And then they take it back onto their own teams. That's one. The second thing that we do is, of course, like I mentioned about sessions. We conduct those sessions, and greatly speaking, people are sort of passionate enough to come across, not to just hear about what are those 5 habits about, but how do you actually make it live? For example, we've got leaders who are sales teams, right? And they work across with individual customers. But more often than not, that we realize that one customer would have moved from one company to the other company, but sales teams sort of make those reference calls to different other countries to sort of bring up the fact that here's my customer who's going across, going beyond their realm of, which is absolutely fabulous, right? So I think those small examples make it big for people, and that's how we've actually been taking it forward even during the pandemic itself, when 2 years of a lockdown. But very clearly, that's been wonderful for us to take it forward. And of course, second is that with all the new onboardings that we've been doing, the values are part of our onboarding and performance management across variety of streams.
Yeah, from the very beginning.
Yeah, from the very beginning itself.
And what we also do, Chris, very well is to take continuous feedback. And I think that's what we were discussing the other day as well, as to while a lot of this is put in motion within the organization, and I think somebody like me who has been here for 10 years has really experienced this. What we also do very clearly is to take continuous feedback from the teams. As an organization which is very agile learning, we are ready to absolutely incorporate that feedback either in our individual behaviors or as a team, so that the next set of experiences embed those learnings back in. And I think that, to Deepak's point, it is a very important aspect when we look at so many new joiners coming in. You mentioned about the buddy system. We have been taking constant feedback about how do we keep improving that. So how do we ensure that along with the buddy system, the managers and supervisors also interact more. We have a very good mechanism by which we incorporate interactions with our clients a lot more. So all of that then goes on to improve the employee experience significantly well in today's times.
And if I could just add one point is, this isn't just about the infrastructure and the process of, reviews and panels, etc. And there's also a more informal network around one of our values always being, responsive and connected. I'm a relatively new joiner. I'm sort of 9-10 months in. And I have to say that, being connected in that more informal discussion is a bedrock of the organization. So I think it's about how do you empower and how do you move that, as well as the more, I guess, structured corporate ways of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And one other thing we've done is also added one of the 5 habits to our reward and recognition scheme. So it's not only our employees are embracing the 5 habits, they're also recognising those behaviours in other individuals and their colleagues and peers. So that's been a really good introduction into our reward and recognition scheme.
Is that what you were going to say?
It's pretty close, actually.
Sorry,
they're all stealing my points.
I couldn't get in there.
We need a buzzer.
Yeah, that's it. I need to be faster.
My turn.
Yeah, but that goes back to the point we mentioned earlier. It has to be embedded. You can have these values and the why and the purpose, but unless that's reflected in your compensation, in your rewards, it's not going to drive the right behaviors otherwise, unless you have that as well.
So, for example, just to build on that, Chris, one of the points that we do is, and it's not just right now, but for many years, like aside to the rewards and recognition programs that we do for performance rewards, we do something which is the best people manager, right? It's across the globe, really just picking up people managers who have enshrined those values, living those by values. And interestingly, the recommendation for that is not through direct line managers or from the teams recommend who are the people managers. Are they living those values? And that's really something that is awarded and publicized, right? So people sort of pick that up to say that, okay, am I actually somebody who can be able to relate to? And there are qualifiers put into place that at least about 70 to 80% of your team collectively need to feel the fact that yes, you are indeed a people manager and you're showcasing those values. And then we take those people managers to go and speak to people at a wider forum to say that what is it that they sort of did in the simple things that they've been working with, which can make a wide difference.
Yeah. Now, I've seen some companies do some great stuff about bringing all those managers together and just sharing stories.
Absolutely.
Of what's working and what's not. It can be so powerful.
Very powerful, very powerful. That is
environment. True. So what are some of the things you're doing as an overall organization, some projects that you're most excited about?
So for us, Chris, obviously we look at ourselves as a very customer-centric organization. So there are 2 key components that drive our vision. One is our customers, second is the markets. That's effectively how we are driving a lot of our future. A lot of exciting stuff happening in that space. First and foremost, we underwent a significant organization change. We pivoted the organization to a market unit, and that has really helped us focus very clearly in the markets that we are present. So we prioritize the markets that we wanted, and we are now focusing. So for example, I had UK and Ireland, and we focus very closely on all the customers in the prioritized segments for us here. Now, for us, the excitement comes because because of the pandemic, there has been a complete rethink of the way businesses have started looking at their own objectives, how they want to really transcend themselves to become future-proof and look at how they can serve their customers in a much more digital manner. The whole emergence of cloud as a very significant means by which these digital goals can be achieved. So if you really ask me, Chris, the few things that I am really excited about, and we are all internally working as an organization, is one, very clearly focus on the digital agenda of our clients, which includes the whole cloud journey, which includes the resiliency journey. I mean, we have been all tested for resiliency over the last 2 years of the pandemic. That's been a big shift for us. But coupled with that is the excitement of creating the workforce of the future. And I think those are the key things, that really excite us, and all our work, investments, working together as a multi, professional team is driving towards that to create an organization that can really meet, the client's requirements. And I think that's how we are looking at it. And each of us have a big individual role to play in that as we go through that journey.
Absolutely, absolutely. Adam?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the important thing here is that, obviously the market dynamics from a workforce standpoint have changed enormously. And it's not just the impact on us and how we are sort of preparing ourselves and looking ahead of the market, looking at the skills and talent we need, making sure we're building the right programs to, you know, support our teams and, you know, build their talent and their skills. But we need to be looking at that with our clients hand in hand as well. And we need to be working sort of very closely with them to sort of mirror what we're doing ourselves with them and help and support our clients on that same journey. Because, you know, we're experiencing it quite acutely in the same way that they are.
Yeah,
so we just need to make that connection and work together because the marketplace is tough.
It's an interesting dynamic then that you have with your clients, because you're going through this same transformation yourselves.
Yes.
And then delivering that with your clients.
And
So why not work together?
Yes,
more
absolutely.
closely, right? And do this together.
Yeah, and exactly, Chris, as you would have seen, I mean, we are doing this session in our new innovation hub at London, and this is exactly to your point. This is a hub where we bring clients, ecosystem partners, and us together to really architect what the future can be for various sectors. And that's this investment itself is an exciting investment for us.
Yeah.
In that whole journey and the process.
Yeah, when I first came here to meet you, I really got that feeling when we first came. By the way, behind these black curtains is an amazing space. In the office, there's all black curtains everywhere.
No, absolutely, and I think that's really it's been a passionate experience for us completely, Chris, because I can just share some example. I mean, we used to operate almost like 6 to 7 offices just in and around London, and it's all right now one collaboration hub. And we don't call it an office. It's a collaboration hub where different teams can come and work together. We are inviting our customers and partners to just come and ideate along with us. It's not really about doing business, but when you sit together, it's really finding out those opportunities where we can solve problems together. And many of our customers call that out to say that when you yourself are going through those change, how do you actually manage those change? Because the themes are pretty much common, right? Everybody is facing the same set of challenges. And if we find solutions together, it's all the more easy. And I can also say that, we do pick up a lot of our solutions back from customers themselves. So
Two-way street.
Especially, I think the return to work, as if we're coming out of the pandemic, as we sort of come out of that pandemic, is how the hybrid working environment. And I think you've got to do that with other businesses to understand the learnings, what they're doing and best practice, and that you can then adopt and change your approach and style, probably continually over the next couple of months as things continue to evolve and what that looks like for our employees, because everybody's journey in life is different. And I think organizations today are taking into consideration it's not the 9 to 5 coming in the office. It's that flexibility, and how do you make sure that you continue to have that culture when a lot of people actually haven't been in the office, so they haven't got the alignment with the brand, the stickiness of the brand that you would have if you had been coming into the office 2 years ago, how it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think it's also about exploring what else has changed with that dynamic. So, we've appointed in Wipro a head of open talent. So we're actually exploring, what that means, because there are many, many people now who want to retain that ability to work remotely. They want to have flexibility to choose, their roles and build their careers that way. So how do we effectively tap into that type of community? And again, how do we take the benefit of that and actually help our clients on that same sort of journey? So I think that's a very sort of relevant and sort of thought-provoking piece that we're looking at the moment. How do we really pick these new things up and really drive them forward for ourselves and our clients?
It's interesting because when I first came to meet you, Deepak, you was like, I bumped into a colleague that I saw 2 years ago. Remember?
Absolutely.
And that was a moment for me where that's the magic of the workplace.
That is true.
And you didn't know that each other were going to be in.
We started doing some levels of quiz to say that, who's how tall, right? So Omkar runs that quiz very much frequently to start off a conversation to say that, what, I've actually not seen you and, who's going to be how tall, right? I mean, it's as simple as that, but it's fun. Simply because of the fact that, you tend to see people on Teams, but when you actually see them in person, it's a completely different situation. And I can also say the other thing, or the other side of it, have we got our, answers sorted out yet? Not really. I mean, I think everybody else is sort of trying to figure out for themselves very, very clearly. The best thing with all of this is there was flexibility. One of the most important things that the pandemic has taught all of us is clearly operating in a zone of flexibility. Being open to the fact that, you should be open to, change. Constantly, right? That itself is something fantastic because each of us are sort of going through our own change to sort of navigate this entire unknown, right? So it's still yet an unknown because, you can't just come back and think that, life is just set back again, right? So
but that is one of the big challenges though, right? We're so used to having these, this is the way we work.
Yeah.
But that's constantly going to change. I had a friend recently who said, I want to work from home forever. And then 3 months in, they're like, I really want to go back to the office.
Yeah.
And so it's constantly going to be changing. So as managers, leaders, organizations, we have to have that freedom within the framework, that trust. That affects everything, all the way down the line.
I think and when we talk about sort of making sure that we think about how we, keep our employees engaged and how we shape ourselves going forward and attract the talent and retain the talent that we love to have within our organisation, having those thought processes around how do we maintain the right balance so that we do attract the right set of people is going to be extremely important. And I think, we can't drop back into sort of traditionally where we were. Yeah. So it's part of our EVP, I think, going forward.
Very
just
powerful.
Building on what Sarah's saying is that we've now got employee experience at the core of our HR strategy, and we've got a dedicated team looking at all the initiatives that can come out of that. So I'm really excited to see what the deliverables will be from that dedicated team.
Well, on that point then, it kind of leads quite nice to the next question. When I first started to do this series and I asked our community, what are you interested in? One of the questions was, how are companies aligning HR with the business strategy? Mm-hmm. Many of us will say, well, HR is the business strategy and vice versa, right? Doesn't live in HR. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that and how you're aligning HR with your overall business strategy.
Why did we actually ask our country managing director? he heads the business, so he should comment. I mean, I have a point of view on what we do, but Omkar, over to you.
So see, it is very simple, Chris. We are in the business of people, okay, and I think that's very fundamental. But as I mentioned earlier, one of the big shifts for us as we move forward from a business perspective is about the entire change in the workforce strategy. Okay, one is in terms of the overall capabilities that are required for the kind of work that the clients and the market demands. And I think that's a big part that we are working towards in terms of how we need to do that. And that's a big interlock with the HR strategy for us, because we have done excellent work. We have 230,000 employees and growing today. But how do you ensure that all of them make the shift together to the future skill sets and to the future hybrid operating model? And I think that's a big part of it. We also work very closely with our clients in terms of understanding what this means back for us from an HR perspective. Because a lot of times we have significant relationships with our customers which go long term. And each of us influence the strategies that we have with our clients and vice versa. So there again, HR plays a very important role for us in terms of ensuring that when we embed our teams into our client teams and they work as a single team, how do those culture aspects also play? And we become a very cohesive team to achieve an outcome that they want to take to their customers. So it's a very involved piece of work. It's a very integrated strategy today for us. While there are always other elements, like your compensation, location and all of that, which continue to play a big role, and Deepak and the team are very well deep into it. That's one play that we are doing. The other part from our HR strategy, which I think we are very deeply working with our business today, is on the whole diversity aspect. See, as we get into solving future problems, diversity of thought, diversity of talent is a very important aspect that needs to be embedded in. It's not just about having the traditional engineers doing the work. It is about having product managers. It is having marketing teams, all of them involved into a solution for the customer. And I think that's the big play where the business strategy and the HR strategy are getting interlocked on a continuous basis and evolving together, Chris. Long answer, but
yeah. No, absolutely. And just to build
was that good enough for you?
Are you aligned?
He's like, wait, no, I completely disagree.
No, I think the key here is that, are we solving the customer's problems, right? I mean, together. And, that for me is the key. Eventually, it's not really about putting processes or methodologies or initiatives unless and until we are fundamentally solving the, end customers' outcomes, right? So that is where I think, the design of our entire HR strategy or the talent strategy is sort of embedded into the business strategy itself, right? I mean, we do, like many other organizations, we do the yearly planning and, horizon planning. All of that is something that is deep into it. But on a called out strategic priorities out of the organization, building talent at scale, and how do we look at the entire suite from an end-to-end perspective for talent is really one of the core strategic pillars called out. So, to me, actually, the talent strategy is the business strategy.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And I think as part of that, it is a culture of learning, because, traditionally you would have had somebody doing the same job perhaps for quite a long time and a number of years, but skills and what's needed in business has changed. Innovation that's needed. We all know that that there is a war on talent. But it's about actually how do we upskill and continue to upskill our people that helps us achieve our clients' goals, but also helps them achieve what they want to achieve out of their career. So the career trajectory is really important as far as, how can we help them fulfill their potential while they're with us. And I think Wipro does a really good job of moving people around as well. So, there's quite a lot of relocation that I've seen. But also people moving into roles and different roles, acquiring new skills that meet the needs of the customer, also meet the needs of for themselves.
Yeah, that kind of goes. It's interesting because most of your colleagues I speak to, I noticed that many of them have been here a long time.
Yeah.
To your point, and I've asked a few of them the question of why, and they've had 4 or 5 careers in the same organization, and they've always felt that they're challenged, and that's what's kept them engaged.
Yeah.
So it's great to have that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think for me as well, just coming back on the diversity point, we're very happy to sort of look externally as well and really sort of take thought leadership in that space. And, we're stepping forward with, for example, our Be Bold events, which is actually bringing other organisations and, people with different views and aspects on the world of work and what it means for the future and how you maintain a diverse workforce, but keep engaging a diverse workforce. Bring them in from the outside, inviting all our colleagues in to actually come and hear and listen. So it's not just about HR having that knowledge and that understanding. It's about our leadership teams. It's about the business. It's about having open forums on how we create that environment and how we actually move forward in the right way.
Yeah, love that.
That is true.
It isn't a job of HR, right?
No.
To
It
live
is
within everyone and every part.
Absolutely. Yeah.
One more other example, Chris, to give you right here in our panel itself. Katrina heads the workforce transition for us. One of our stated strategic priorities, if I may, is really about looking at M&A and inorganic growth, right? And when we look at that, there are 2 components to it. One is mergers that we do and acquisitions that we do on a continuous basis, looking at the right set of capabilities that we want to build in. Alongside with that, we do what is cheaper transfers. People join across in Europe and international locations. And the key part in that is our ability to be able to imbibe the culture of the organization, continue to work across with them, rather than just sort of lift and shift and putting them back onto a Wipro setup, but driving business synergies. And at the helm of it, from a strategic workforce transition planning standpoint, there's a team which Katrina runs to make sure that we are able to actually sustain that. We're privileged and proud of the fact that we almost have a 90 to 95% retention of the team that has joined us, which is fantastic. And that has a straight line implication in terms of our business strategy, because that's exactly what drives our growth in terms of new opportunities, working at scale. How do we partner across? We've published out a year back. We did a very large acquisition with Capco, for example, right? It gives us deep domain capability in the banking and financial services space itself. And that itself is complementary, because we get the technology capability and they get the consulting and the domain capability. And when we go in for a new customer together, how do we actually bridge that balance and create synergies together moving forward is you call it a talent strategy, but it's actually sort of leaking across to driving business growth very, very clearly.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you're busy, Katrina.
I'm very busy.
Yeah, we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but we've all heard sort of the Great Resignation, the Great Reimagination. There's a great lot of versions.
And great renegotiation right now.
Yeah. There's loads. So how are you sort of tackling that war on talent and turning sort of the Great Resignation into the Great Re-engagement, if you want to say it that way?
Yeah, I should, my thinking is pretty simple on that. I think, what we're all experiencing right now is something which is core to people as inherently something that was there even within them. In the sense, what I mean to say is that, individuals were really looking at value for time, work-life balance, meaningful work. And today what we are experiencing with this entire Great Resignation is the pandemic has just given them a choice and an option to sort of rethink about themselves, right? So it's not that, this wasn't something that was there in the past, right? To me, I think, it just got aggravated. I think people have had the time to be able to think through that, whether what I'm doing is meaningful work enough. Do I have quality time for myself with my, family and, friends and all of that? And am I really contributing back, right? I mean, am I actually making an impact? So that's the situation that, all of us are sort of encountering, which is where it is resulting across onto this great resignation. And a lot of people are really thinking without, enough and more surveys and data points are available, Chris, to say that, 40 to 50% of people still want to move on, even if they don't have a job at their hand, which really comes back onto the point that
how powerful it is.
Yeah, which is why to say that, are we really actually giving them meaningful work, which can keep them continuously engaged? And so the answer relies not just about policies and processes and putting something, it's really about coming back again onto how we treat employees, which had been fundamentally basic, by the way, right? I mean, operating in a zone of trust, allowing them to have meaningful work, learning and development from a perspective, building careers for people, aside to great compensation and benefits and all of that. We are a distributed workforce. We, as well as many other large organizations worldwide, people will continue to operate remote. They will continue to operate where they want flexibility. And the last 2 years has actually shown that productivity has been fantastic. I mean, we've all delivered fabulous results for each of our customers, right? So which really begs up the fact that what do we do differently right now as we move forward, and not really tilt back onto, Sarah mentioned about going back onto the traditional ways of working, but really about to accept the fact that in the same status of a hybrid operating model, how do we still deliver back value, right? How do we connect back across with people? And I think we're doing a good job out of it. There's a lot more yet to be done on that for sure.
Yeah. I think you're right. Like, for the first time, people actually got to live an alternative lifestyle, and then you say, "Now you got to come back now."
Yeah. Most people, employees, will choose to decide right now whether they would want to work across with an organization which is so very rigid to not accept realities, right? And I think the best thing right now is that we've all started to understand each other's situation a lot more better, right? So my view is that as we move forward, we just need to have the same level of compassion and empathy going back to people to understand, right? I mean, let's say I can give you a very real life example of yesterday. I mean, I was at home. I was supposed to get into a very major important call, just to realize that my daughter's shuttle service just couldn't make it in the evening. I had to sort of just excuse myself to go, and I was on the phone to still take that call, which is perfectly fine. I mean, it's just that those simple examples of a little bit that one needs to do, and if the ecosystem is supporting you, then you're perfectly fine with that. To say that look, here's my manager, here's my organization is willing to listen to that situation.
And, and it comes back actually to one of our 5 habits, which is all around trust.
Yeah.
We have to trust our employees to do the right thing for us and for our customers, and that's really part of our DNA. It's very important. And I think the other thing is, and Deepak and team have been doing a really great job, is, what does best in class now look like for an experience at work? How do we get there? How do we really make that happen? And that's something that the team are working really hard on, to make sure that we can give that to our employees and offer that to people that we want to attract in.
Yeah. One of the things I want to get into, which the audience is super excited about hearing, is what does this decision-making process look like amongst the team? Whether it's bringing a new idea to the table, or whether it be challenging each other? Do you have a specific process in place of what that looks like?
I think it's become a little bit easier in the last year or two, particularly with the big change that we've had around the change in operating model. So we've had each region now has their own P&L, where before there was several P&Os. So now there's very few silos, and each of the country and manager sector heads now manage their own budget. So I think that has enabled decisions to be made quicker and more well-versed decisions as well. And as an organisation, you know, like many other organisations externally, of course, we have our processes, we've got our governance, our races and our metrics. But I think the key point for us is how we work collaboratively to get those decisions and to make those decisions, make sure those decisions are the right decisions for us as an organisation. And in the role that I do, that Deepak was explaining around sort of the people transfers in terms of bringing new business into the organisation, obviously there's key decisions to be made around, are we achieving the savings? Are we achieving the client objectives and the technical solution? But from my point of view, it's also, are we making sure we've got the right decisions around the employee proposition? Because it's always about the people, because the people are our biggest assets. They always will be the assets to bring in new business and to grow as an organisation. And it's not just about what we do, it's how we do it. And I think that has really improved our decision making and enabled us to grow as an organisation and win new business.
I love that. So that's really the foundation, right? So you could have all the chaos in the world, but you can always come back to that foundation of, is this aligned with our why, purpose and people? And you can operate from there despite the chaos, despite everything that's going on.
Strangely enough, actually, you're right, Chris, because I used to keep thinking about that, how do you get the values back? Because it's really about, when you look at all of these situations that we're talking about, it's really coming back onto the 5 habits that, if you've got to be able to trust people, then, allow them to take those decisions, right? I mean, and allow them to operate in a zone where everybody, it's about trusting the other person, right? To say that, if my peer is taking a decision in the organization ecosystem, I've got to be able to take a step back and realize that, he or she is really doing it right with the right intent for the organization, right? So
even if you disagree.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are also times, I can also say that, it's not an easy one, by the way.
I know, that's why I'm asking the question.
It's not really easy from that standpoint to say that, it's got to be an individual change to accept the fact that, it's okay for somebody else to go ahead and take a decision, because eventually we are all aligned in terms of the goals and the purpose that we've laid out for ourselves. And so hence it's okay. The other thing that happens is that, we'll still do mistakes, right? I mean, there are scenarios that we will come across where, we fail, right? And any one particular situation. And that is that test that comes across at that point of failure, that are we willing to respect each other and stay to the fact, say that let's pick up the learnings out of that and work to make it a success moving forward. Because, we are in a high pressure zone. It's a high performance situation. So if you lose a customer deal, going across to millions or whatever, there is a high likelihood that one may just come back on to say that, what, X did not do a great job and Y did not do a good job out of it. It's rather than that, to come back collectively and say that, what, hey, just huddle up and, let's figure out what should we have been doing better about it, right? So those points of failures are also a point of reflection to test ourselves, that is the values really operating in the manner it should actually operate, right? Or is it really about, speaking about it? Because it all may seem nice when you're doing sessions, but how do you again come back? This goes back to some of the earlier questions that we were discussing, that, how do you actually live it?
Yeah. Well, on that point then, how do you provide that feedback as a leadership team to each other?
Very openly, actually. I would say, I mean, in all honesty, I think we're very open as a leadership team, and we're very willing to kind of get around a table, or, well, maybe virtually get around a table, and really talk about these things, and what's the lessons we can take, and how can we all learn and move forward. And I think that's a really lovely thing about working in this organisation, and something I'm quite proud of, is our ability to do that. And that self-reflection is very important. And I think our clients see that too. And I think they see the benefit of that. And it plays down, from leadership down. And I think that's really key.
Yeah.
I think this goes back to the always communicating. So if you're making a decision, have you involved the right people, had the right discussions, listened, incorporated, etc. And what Deepak says, I felt since I've been in, I had nothing but support about the decisions that I needed to make or making around from a marketing communications standpoint. And I also know that if something doesn't work out, I've got the support of the leadership team behind me as well, because they understand where we're heading towards and understand the reasons why we're doing certain things. And I think it's about that openness and that consultation aspect to that's really, really important. And I think as well, Wipro's a friendly bunch of people, right?
I noticed that, by the way, when we first met off camera, I came in and I was like, we're going to have a great chat.
Yeah.
And as he said, why? I was like, there's such a good, even though I just walked in the room and met all of you, there was a really good energy in the room. That isn't always the case.
Yeah.
I can tell you as well. And I felt it immediately.
That's great feedback, actually.
I immediately felt welcome. And someone said something, everyone laughed. And I was like, oh, this is
And you've got to remember is that, a couple of us joined, a virtually. I joined virtually 9 months ago. So, we've only met each other probably a handful of times.
Never would have known that.
Yeah. Exactly. So, it's a friendly company and a friendly team. Not to say it's not commercial, because it absolutely is. But you get, you have good conversations, you have good discussions, etc., and you do feel very supported.
Mm-hmm. Last question. What's one thing you want, I'll ask each of you this question, one thing that you want people to take away from this conversation? Oh, who's going first?
Should I
jump in?
Because it seems to be the theme of everything I've said. But, working collaboratively with our clients, our partner ecosystem, that's really important to us, because, you can't stand alone and move forward on this journey where we are today. So I think that's very, very key for us.
Deepak?
No, that we are an ambitious organization. We are excited and looking forward to a bold future, both for our customers as well as the communities at large and the society. And that truly this is a place where people can belong and, enrich their lives to succeed. So, that's really my takeaway. Yeah.
No, they're all thinking I should have went first. What's going to be left for me at the end?
There's lots.
I'm only joking.
That's what I'm thinking now. I guess the thing for me is behaviours and culture are so super important, because you can have the best idea or the best ambition, that things you want to achieve, but unless you've got the mindset, the right behaviour to do it, it's not necessarily what you do, the outcome, but it's how you do it as well. And when I look at hiring people, it's not just about what they've achieved, but how they've achieved it. And I think that's what's really important, and that's what I see a lot in Wipro, and that's why I really love the 5 habits that we sort of really are rooted in the culture of the organisation.
Oh, yeah.
So, Chris, for me, I think the most important thing to take away is the whole aspect of diversity. I think we are entering into a world which will require diversity of thought much more. It will require diverse teams to work together because now the whole world is one single workforce. That's the way. So from my perspective, I think that's one of the big themes that we should be driving. We are driving, but even as a team, I think that's one of the focus areas for us as we move forward as an organization.
Last but not least.
I would say that we trust, recognise and reward our people, and that we are one Wipro family.
Oh,
wonderful.
I think that's a great way to end it there. Thank you to everyone for joining and having us. I appreciate it, and keep up the amazing work.
A pleasure always, Chris.
Thank you
very
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.